There are many conventions that define a short film and the psychological thriller genre that I had to research in order to obtain a clear understanding of both the former and latter. Short films, for example, possess certain and obvious conventions. Firstly, as defined by the BFI, they must be 40 minutes or less. Any longer and they would be classed as a feature-length film. In this case, my short film conforms to this convention as it is only a little over 5 minutes long. Additionally, short films usually have a very low budget as the director is commonly independent from substantial financial support, which is significant as this can be a restriction on a director's creativity. Although, this restriction can sometimes stimulate a director to be more creative and resourceful. Because of this, short films usually have only 2 or 3 main characters as the director can only afford a few actors, or their actors are relatively new to the industry and are doing it for free to obtain acting credits. However, my media product partially subverts from this convention as I have 6 actors. Another correlation between my short film and other examples of the same media product is that they feature very few locations, a common attribute of a short film. Indeed, I spent no money on the actual production of my film as the actors and their locations were free to use. There is also the cost of time, the time that the actors sacrificed to participate in the film. Knowing that I had a time pressure, I had to constantly work at a fast pace to reduce the duration of the filming days. It can also be argued that a short film usually has a twist in its narrative, shown by short films such as Inside and Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. Although it is not necessary, but I decided to translate this common convention to my film, creating a prominent twist concerning the role of the patient in relation to the family. My primary target audience should, therefore, find a narrative interesting as they already have an expectation due to their prior knowledge of the genre. Additionally, the mise-en-scene in a short film can be recognisable, allowing the audience to relate to the characters as they could view themselves in their position. I feel that my short film may not completely conform to this convention, as there are location elements in my film that are recognisable, such as the family in their home, but there are parts that are not. For instance, not many people experience a murder in their lifetime, and therefore the audience finds this situation uncomfortable as they cannot completely connect with it, hence the creepiness of my film. An example of this in another media text is the grotesque crime scenes of the thriller Seven. Although it is not a short, it demonstrates particular conventions of the thriller genre and provided me with inspiration when planning my film. It can also be said that most short films follow the narrative structure similar to that of Todorov's theory of equilibrium. However, I do not believe that my short film follows this pattern as there is no resolve or new equilibrium. I think that mine is more like Bath codes, as my anachronic narrative has no real beginning, nor does it have a certain ending, and the whole thing is almost reversible. My media text is open to interpretation rather than having one clear-cut, closed narrative. Another way to analyse whether my short film conforms to the conventions of this form of media product is to compare it to other short films that I have viewed. For example, Inside is very similar to my short film. In terms of content, they're both psychological thrillers, as shown by their shared visual conventions. They both involve the theme of schizophrenia, and they each contain some form of interrogation. The reason for this is that the target audience for my film is very similar to that of Inside. It is also just over 5 minutes long and uses multiple characters, similar to mine. However, they both subvert from the convention of having a small number of characters, as it is necessary to use multiple characters to emphasize the extent of the antagonist's multiple personality disorder. On the other hand, Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared is 3.5 minutes long and does not include any aesthetics or content similar to mine. Although, it does possess this element of ambiguity and creepiness which is prevalent in my own production, which is evidence for a correlation between these two shorts. From this, it is clear to see a correlation between existing short films and my own. Some conventions are followed strictly and others loosely. The point is that a short film is flexible and can vary in style and structure. Likewise, there are certain conventions that exist within a form and a genre. The genre I selected for my short film was psychological thriller, a subgenre of thrillers, which comes with its own conventions. There is usually a large emphasis on the human mind and identity, which are both heavily ingrained in my story. The unstable mind of the patient is the focal point of the conflict within the narrative as he searches for his own identity through the members of the family, shown by the shot of the imaginary children in his head. There is usually a fascination with death in a psychological thriller, which my short film also has. It is clear that in terms of genre, my short film conforms to the common conventions of most psychological thrillers. In the production of my film poster, I constantly referred back to the examples of film posters from the thriller genre. I analysed their conventions and used, developed, or challenged them. All three of the examples contain a character's face as the main image that acts as a great focal point for the poster. I tried to replicate this by having the patient as the main image for my poster. I also recognised that there was a correlation throughout each example. Each had a subtitle or tagline. I therefore created a tagline that reflected the narrative of my short film, like the examples did for their films. Both Orphan and The Silence of the Lambs have dark colours for their background of their poster, which I used in my own product. The examples only introduce one character to retain the essence of ambiguity of their story, whereas I present most of my characters in the poster. Therefore, I have subverted from this convention. Although I believe that my poster still features a great deal of ambiguity due to the blurred effect I have used for the main character's face. The poster for The Silence of the Lambs includes the names of 3 main actors above its title. I developed this by having the names of 3 of my actors at the top of the poster. I also noticed that there was a release date and a small logo for the production company underneath the building block in the Orphan poster, which I recreated in my own work. The release date for Orphan was a different colour to the rest of the font, so I used this feature in my own work. Lastly, it must be noted that The Next Few Days is not actually a psychological thriller, but I analysed it as its main image was similar to the developing idea I had for a kaleidoscope effect. In this light, it can be seen that my poster subverts from the usual conventions of a poster for the psychological thriller, as it uses elements of another genre. My last media product was a film review of my short. The construction of this ancillary task was similar to that of the poster in the sense that I constantly referred back to the examples I had previously analysed. Additionally, I read through multiple Empire magazine articles to get a feel for the writing style necessary for such a review. It can be seen that my film review follows the rigid conventions of this media product. I replicated the format of an Empire magazine review almost exactly, and the way I structured the review is quite similar to the review of Nightcrawler, which I had previously analysed. I also selected a photograph that epitomised the tension of my short film, which both of the reviews I analysed did also. Since the aesthetics and content of my film review are so similar to that of real reviews, it can be said that this media product has most certainly followed its normal conventions.